I'm going to talk just a little bit about the new role that I have. I can't talk in the same way as Bill about his achievements, because he's achieved a great deal, and he's got my respect, and I've already said it privately, but I'll repeat it publicly. If I was able to achieve half of what he's achieved over his career, I'd be a very proud man. So I think he deserves our respect, and his comments should be listened to very carefully. I lead about 53,000 people in the Metropolitan Police. Through taxation, we're given £3.5 billion of public money. It never seems quite enough, but it's a great opportunity. We provide a service to 7.5 million people who live here, and then they tell us there are around another 2 million people who visit London every day. That means that there's an awful lot to do. And of course, the 52,000 people include 32,000 police officers, of whom not all are here every minute of every day. So it means that we have to work with the resources we've been given, and make sure that we make the most of it. I think if I was to try and characterise some of the big things I want to achieve, one would be that we have to make sure that we're very efficient in the way that we police. We have to use smart tactics and make sure that we keep on top of how our performance is going. And Bill introduced something called ComStat, which is something I've always believed in, and we carry on with today. And secondly, about using big tactics that will make an impression on a city the size of London. Tactics that right across London, done together, can make an impact. I've said as Commissioner that I have three aims, which is to cut crime, cut costs, because at the time of public limitations in terms of public money, and also to continue to develop the culture of the Met. I would never criticise the culture of any organisation, but I think it's within all of us to improve and make sure that we provide a great service to the people of London. And I've said that I will offer to the Met in terms of values, humility, integrity and transparency. Because I think they're important things that I want to stand by, but I think it's important for the organisation to remember that we're a service that provides a service with consent and exercises force reasonably. While London is unique, and it's a massive city, it's a world city, I don't accept that that means we can't be the best. I've set an aim that we will be the best police force in the country, and we're the best police force in the world. And I think that's possible. Because for every challenge that makes London a difficult place to police, there's an opportunity. And it's our aim to make sure we make the most, we overcome the challenges and make the best of the opportunities that are presented. I want to constantly look to see how we can improve. I think only in that way will we make progress. We do not have the benefit of competition. If you have a victim of crime in London, you have to come to the Met. And that's a little different with British Transport Police. If you're on the underground, you have no choice. And if we don't drive ourselves to improve, then what that means is that we will never get better. So I'm determined that we constantly challenge ourselves about our performance for the future. I've said I want to do this through total policing. We all have our brands, we all have our things that we stand by. What I mean by total policing is with 53,000 people, we can make a great impact as a team. More than 53,000 individuals can make acting individually. So it's about creating a team ethos and making sure that we react as a team and providing a great service. I want to put fear into the heart of criminals. I want to make sure that the people of London have trust in us, and I want to make sure that our staff are proud of what we achieve. A central tenet of total policing is cutting crime by a relentless drive against criminals, by cleaning up the kind of criminality that blights people's lives: drugs, drug dealing, street robbers, antisocial behaviour, things that some people sometimes regard as being of minor importance, but I think it's vital that we challenge that sort of bad behaviour, because it makes a difference in terms of dealing with the very serious criminality, which is thankfully rare, but has a massive impact on people's lives. I hope you'll have noticed some of the tactics that we've started. I've been in charge now for around 10 weeks, but two tactics that we've pushed have been around uninsured vehicles and around exercising warrants right across London for drug dealing. Now, the uninsured vehicles idea is about the fact that when we seize uninsured vehicles, what we know is that 80% of the people who have uninsured vehicles are criminals, 60% of which are active. So it's not just about taking an uninsured vehicle off the road, and we know that the uninsured vehicle is 5 to 9 times more likely to have an accident and 9 times more likely to have one with a serious injury. It's about reducing the mobility of the criminal. That's why we do it. It's not just about the uninsuredness of the car, although that's an important factor as well. And on our first 2 days, we took around 1,000 vehicles off the road. Some will be crushed, some will be sold, some will be returned to the non-insured person if they get the insurance. But the main thing is to say that right across the 32 boroughs of London, we'll act together on some days out of the month. And secondly, in terms of the warrants for drugs, the simple idea there started with a sergeant in a place I used to police in Merseyside, a sergeant in Birkenhead who noticed that if you got good intelligence, you went to see a magistrate, get a warrant, put the door in, it's amazing what you find, instead of having 18 months of surveillance. Now, the trick is to do it right across the 32 boroughs of London together to have an impact beyond each individual warrant that could be exercised. So those are the type of tactics that we think can start to make a difference in terms of some of the challenges we face. I also want to take the initiative away from the criminals and to use technology in a more impactful way too. By technology, I mean things like the automatic number plate recognition camera, a better use of CCTV, and other emerging technologies. I think it's really vitally important that if we have 32,000 cops, they're equipped with the equipment that will either stop the crime happening or alternatively to investigate the offence very well, or to help the victim. The total policing that I referred to has three legs. First of all, to reduce crime. Secondly, a total care for victims, because sadly we do not detect every crime, but we still need to help the victim. And finally, to be totally professional in the service we provide. And one of my proudest claims in terms of Merseyside, we did reduce crime by an awful lot, 38 to 40%. One of the proudest things we achieved was that we had the lowest number of complaints for police officers in the country per head. And we also reduced civil litigation in terms of civil litigation against the force acting in a negligent way. So it's not just about reducing crime, it's not just about helping victims, it is about the professionalism and continuing to develop the culture of the police service that I lead. I just finally wanted to mention, in the limited time that we have available, that I've talked an awful lot today and in the past about enforcement. But I do think it's vital as part of the total war that we can have on crime to make sure that we emphasise prevention. Better that we do not have a crime, better we don't have a victim, than we have to deal with the consequences. One of the things that the Mayor in London has pushed, and I support, is around the sobriety work, which we saw start in America. And I think it's a great opportunity to reduce crime generally. For those of you who are unaware, in South Dakota, one of the DAs, one of the district attorneys there, I think had a really sharp idea. He noticed and was having to deal with the consequence of lots of drunk drivers killing people on the roads. Now, I don't know South Dakota, but I do know it's a pretty rural area, and I know that if you don't think there's a chance of being stopped by the police, there's a danger that you drink, you drive, and somebody gets hurt. So what the DA decided to do, instead of stopping the drunk driver driving, it was to stop the driver getting drunk. And the way that he did that was to say, right, if you're convicted of a drunk driving offence, you will be tested every day for a period, a year, for example, every morning and night, and if you are drunk, or if you've had a certain amount of alcohol, you go back to prison for a day. 90% of the people who took that test passed. So it actually stopped the very problem that he'd identified. The most immediate direct benefit was that people didn't get killed on the roads in the same numbers, a drastic fall off. But I think, as importantly, they also saw a reduction in domestic violence, because alcohol was a precursor and aggravating factor in so many crimes. And I just think there's a great opportunity there. We see in Strathclyde that they're actually carrying out that operation by not relying on police officers or probation workers testing people morning and night, but by a technological bracelet which just tells whether or not the offender is drinking, and if so, then there's a consequence in the event that they fail the test. So I just give it as an example of where, of course, the police can do more, and I've sketched out some areas where I think it's important for the Met to do more. But equally, it's important for us to use technology and to use preventative measures around two areas, one around alcohol and secondly around drugs. The two most aggravating factors around crime tend to be those areas. Drugs because of the acquisitive crime that goes with its value, and alcohol in terms of violence generally, but certainly criminality as well. And for anybody who's ever visited a cell block at night, they will know that you can smell the problem in the air. It's the alcohol that the people in the cells are exhuming or exhaling. It's as obvious as that, because 80 to 90% of the people we arrest at night are to do with alcohol. So I'm not a prohibitionist. I know we have an American here today. I'm sure Americans are the audience. I'm not for prohibition. My point is, if we can reduce the alcohol intake over time, it may well be that we've got a great benefit we can offer our society, and particularly young people. But quite happy to take questions later, Richard, on anything that I've talked about. Thank you very much for listening.